Hello, everyone. How is everyone doing? Today, I have Matisse Tolin with me joining. He is the creative director at Austin AI Film Festival, and he has a lot of achievements. And he has been in the film industry for more than 10 years, and even more. Matisse, feel free to correct me here. But thanks a lot for joining the show, Matisse.
Absolutely. Yeah, about 15 years in that industry. So AI is quite new, but entertainment I've been doing for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and like we'll talk about a lot of experience that you have gained, and you have worked in a lot of technological side apart from the film industry. So I'm very excited for audience to learn from you, and yeah, we're gonna get started. Let's start with your maybe introduction, some background if you want to share.
Yeah, so let's see. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, so I knew I wanted to do the film industry stuff, and I went to film school. Went to film school in Philadelphia for a little bit, and then transferred to film school in Los Angeles, and started studying screenwriting there. And I love writing, and writing's a big part of my life. So yeah, from there I just started getting jobs in LA, in the industry, and trying to work my way up any way I could. And we all kind of go on these journeys that are take us in different directions, and so that was my journey in my 20s and my 30s. And now I'm 37, and I'm working in AI now, AI filmmaking, which is obviously new to a lot of people, including me. Yeah, it's been a fun journey, but the whole time I've been trying to tell stories, do entertainment, movies, films, commercials, dabbling here and there with technology, visual effects, but most of the time just trying to make content. you know.
That's awesome. I have so many questions on just what you said. So I want to ask first of all, when did you first realize? I know that you are brought up in LA, and has a big Hollywood, appeal to it, and you are almost ingrained in the environment. But when did you first realize that okay, I want to pursue like writing or screenplay or be in the film industry?
I think it was at different points in my childhood and my teenage years, like I always liked writing stories as a kid. I would create these comic books. I would draw these comic books when I was a kid, and I still have them laying around somewhere. And I was really into animation and cartoons and anime and all that stuff. And I was like, oh, I want to be, an animator. I want to animate. And it turns out 3D animation is quite hard. So I didn't immediately take to it. But then when I got to college, well, even before college and high school, I was doing film stuff. So my mind was focused on film, animation. And then as I got to college, I was more focused on writing and kind of taking that writer, producer, director sort of role, but mostly writing. And I always liked movies, since I was a little kid. I've always liked movies. I love movies. I can tell you everything about every movie, I'm just obsessed with movies. So movies, video games, animation, all that stuff.
Which is one movie or two movie that you have watched the most out of all, if you remember?
Yeah, The Matrix. I mean, I've seen The Matrix a ton of times, and I've seen the movie Heat a lot with Robert De Niro. Looking at the poster right now, but yeah, I mean, I watch movies over and over and over again. Like I don't watch different movies all the time. I like to watch the same movie over and over and over again and just really like crack it.
Interesting. I wonder why you like that.
Yeah, because I study it. I study the script, I study the scenes, I study the editing, I study all the different aspects of it. And if it's a great movie, it's so rewatchable. It's just those great movies, I could just watch those like over and over and over again, and really just like there's so much to study. There's just so much that's going on at one time.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I used to like just like learn from YouTube about like how the different scenes and every direction work. And when I started learning about it, of course I'm not in the industry, but when you actually start learning about these things, one time watching the movie doesn't do any justice. You have to watch multiple times because you're watching it from different perspective every single time.
Absolutely. I mean, good movies are so rewatchable, you know, and as you get more and more into film and filmmaking, you start to watch movies in a very different way than like a casual person who's not in film, you know, like when I'm looking at a movie, I'm like, I'm seeing the matrix codes come down, you know, it's like this, and then other people, they're just kind of enjoying the story. And it's good to be able to kind of switch back and forth between just watching a movie to enjoy it and have fun and let loose and like, you know, just forget about your world, and another way, just really dissecting and breaking down every single scene, every single shot, which is more like a mathematical left brain kind of thing, you know. So yeah, I mean, it's movies are great. I mean, movies are great, and we're in a crazy time right now, you know, in the industry.
Yeah, and I want to get into that too. Let's talk about, you said that you have been telling stories and you have been thinking about telling stories and being more towards the visual appeal of storytelling. Walk us through like what about the storytelling that you like the most?
I think I've come to realize that, you know, storytelling is like you're kind of like a magician, you know, you're doing a magic show. You're taking people on a journey. You're playing with people's emotions, you know, you're joking around with people with jokes. And so you're kind of like you're directing this show, and storytelling, whether it's writing or directing, to be good at it, I think you really have to understand the audience and what the audience's perception of the story at that moment, and of the characters, and just, you know, playing with elements of surprise and things like that. I mean, there's so much I love about writing and about storytelling, but I mean, for me, it's, you know, creating a world, it's creating a concept that has irony in it, you know, and it's about expressing your feelings as a human and your beliefs, you know. Really, it's just me talking through my stories and my characters, basically, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost feels to me what you're describing is like we humans get to live one life and we each have our own stories. But with storytelling, you can be in a different, almost like a mindset and different human being or different persona, which you are not. So it's almost like gives you so many different perspective and view to see life.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's the thing about good acting, you know, and good characters, is it like it changes your perspective, but then it also makes you realize how similar we all are, you know, even though there's so many people going through different situations in different films, that you may not be able, you know, like none of us are like living in an action movie with explosions and stuff, you know, but still the characters, we can identify with like what they're feeling and what they're going through, you know, because we're all human, you know, that's just part of the human condition.
I wanted to ask you about you have worked with so many different directors and different people in the film industry. You have assisted a lot of directors and talent managers. Out of all the directors, I guess I should ask first, which was your favorite director? I mean, it's hard to pick and it's not going to be justice, but what's your favorite director and what did you like about them that is still like stuck to you?
Yeah, I mean, I worked with this director named Tor Freudenthal, and he did this movie called Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and then he also did Percy Jackson, and I worked with him on Percy Jackson, and he was a really nice, creative, you know, guy who was just, you know, he was fun to work with, and he was working on fun projects. But I've worked with a lot of different directors, you know. I would say probably one, two, three, four, five directors as an assistant, you know, for at least like 6 months at a time to a year, 2 years. And it was cool, you know, because I got to shadow them, and I get to work with them on a daily basis. And that, I think when you're younger, you know, in Hollywood, it's a real privilege, you know, to be able to work with these directors who are doing big projects, you know, for studios, and they take you with you. You know, you go to the studio, you get to go to the meetings, you get to be on the phone calls, you get to help them with the presentations and really be a part of that. And you start to learn about what they do, you know, and how they do it. And they're all different, but I think they all have kind of strong opinions on certain things. They're definitely creative. They're definitely artists. But a lot of times that job is also really like kind of just normal stuff for them, you know, like their day-to-day life, like their personal, assisting them personally, keeping their calendar, watching their emails. But depending on the director, it was cool to work at different offices in different parts of Los Angeles at different companies, because these directors are basically, inside of a company for however long they might be working, like basically at a company. And so you get to see that company as well, not just the director, but you get to travel with them. I mean, I got to travel all over the country, and I got to work at Fox Studios, which was amazingly cool before it got sold to Disney. And I got to work at Amazon Studios on the very first show that Amazon ever made, which was a really cool experience. Got to be on set for that. It was a TV show, and just a lot of like very diverse experiences that I'm very grateful for. But ultimately, it's like being a director's assistant isn't, there's no real pathway after that to like get promoted. Maybe I think the closest thing might be becoming like a producer for them, if they really like you. That didn't happen with me with any of these directors. I kind of worked for them and I stopped working for them, and I keep in touch with some of them, but it lasts for the TV show or it lasts for the movie. And then when that's done, you guys kind of like split up, so it's like you're kind of breaking up with somebody,
Yeah, because you are like pretty much spending day to day, every single day,
Yeah.
and sometimes even more than 12 hours, 15 hours just doing the same thing.
Yeah, very, very close relationship, very intimate in ways. And that was, I'll never forget some of those experiences. Never.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, before you get too emotional and talk about breakups, let's switch the topic. So, okay, so you did the direction work for a few years, and then what was the next step after that? I know that you did some associate direction and then a couple other roles.
Yeah, I mean, really, after being a director's assistant, I wanted to try out virtual reality. And this was now like, I don't know, 10 years ago, maybe 9 years ago, 8 years ago. And it was like, VR was kind of making a comeback and getting popular. And I was like, this is interesting. This technology is cool for storytelling. Again, it like always goes back to storytelling and technology. Those are my two things. And so after I was a director's assistant, I just kind of came up with my own company to do
Wow.
VR. And I had a partner, and we did work. We did jobs for people, basically doing 360 video, if you remember that, like,
Yeah.
360-degree video. We did that for real companies. We did some stuff like that, and I got to make some independent films for VR, and I got to know a lot of people in the VR space. And I was going to all the conventions for VR in LA and over in New York, and it was fun, to be a part of that at the very beginning of that kind of new wave with like Facebook bought Oculus and then became Meta, and like when PlayStation was coming out with their VR headset. It was just an exciting time, and I wanted to give it a shot. And ultimately, it was very difficult just in terms of people accepting VR and wanting to pay for those services, and really like VR taking over more of the population and the society in a way, which is, it's hard, because it's like you're wearing it, so it's tricky. But we tried to solve a lot of problems, and I learned a lot. And I really learned what it was like to have my own business and to start a business and to like be a startup and an entrepreneur, and marketing and social media and just client relationships and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I'm so glad that you're taking all of this as in a positive light, and you learn from your failures, you learn from your challenges, and you learn to solve so many problems. I wanted to touch base on the VR space, because I mean, I was also very curious about VR when like you said, when
Yeah.
Oculus first came around. And I'm seeing right now as well, like metaverse, and people talk about the VR space, and people do tend to think that VR can benefit the film industry. And I tend to seem like you said, it's very hard to convince people, and it's like you have this big headset on you, which after taking it off, you get dizzy. It's like hard to be in that immersive environment, and
Yeah.
and also the quality is not there. So what do you
Right.
think there? Where is this VR industry? Is this going to be becoming popular in the film industry soon, or it's going to be dying down, or AR augmented reality will take its place, or what's going to happen there?
I think VR and AR are still going to be around for, for a long time, forever, and just slowly evolve over time and slowly get better over the next like 50 years. And I think that right now can be very good for video games. I don't think it's as useful for filmmaking at this point. But, I recently tried Apple's headset, the Vision Pro, and that was pretty impressive, So I think that's definitely, a leap above what we had, 5 years ago or 10 years ago, for sure. So it's definitely making progress. I think AI is much more broad and interesting than VR or AR, but I do think, there are times in my life when VR and AR definitely come into play. Like I went to an art gallery recently, and like the gallery owner was using AR on her phone to like show me more of the painting that was like 3-dimensional coming out from the wall, and that was really cool. So stuff like that is really cool, but yeah, ultimately it's just really hard to get people to adopt hardware like that,
Yeah, totally. I mean, when you go to see Avatar, Avatar 2, and they hand you like 3D glasses,
Mhm.
they are good, but I don't think those are like. I mean, we're living in 2024 and we're still using those 3D glasses, which are not even doing that good of a job. Of course, you can see the depth and everything. Some of these scenes are good, but I think we still have some more years of innovation in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, I love watching movies in 3D in the theater, especially IMAX, like Avatar, and it really does bring a whole nother level to it. I can't lie, but it's just for the home viewing, for viewing on the go on mobile. Obviously, that's not. I mean, unless it's like interesting to think, if in the future, you could just quickly do this, and then you're in a 3D immersive world, and it's that quick. Like, I could see myself just picking up my phone and like doing this for a minute. I could see myself doing that just to like look around, maybe get the feel for like a room or a place or something like that. It's really good for location scouting, for production design, for designing a set. Like being in the space is very important for people like that.
Ah, interesting. Yeah, that's a really good point. So, and since you briefly touched on the AI, let's actually dive deep into like the AI space, and
Mhm.
specifically like, and since like you're like you have done a lot of storytelling and you have been writer. There's so many, you have ChatGPT and other LLMs which are doing a lot of like writing tasks and doing it really well. And
Mhm.
of course, a lot of people have already been asking about, well, what's going to happen to the writers in the film industry? Where do
Yeah.
you think that's going to be?
It's a really unknown right now. I really hope that human powered writing, human authorship remains important. And I with the film festival, I'm very intent on making that important and making that a point and making it part of my philosophy, because I think human stories are essentially like have to be human and told by humans. And I don't want to watch a story that was made by a robot. I just don't. I just don't. But I'll watch a story written by a human that was then visualized by AI. I have no problem with that. So that's just my opinion. I think that in terms of writers, gosh, yeah, it's tough because it's already hard to tell the difference between a human writer and a chat GPT. I mean, it's really hard to tell. And, it's like, but I think if it kind of like bots online or like a blue verified check mark on Twitter or on X, it's like if you interact with someone online and then you like just texting with them, typing with them, and then you realize it's a bot, you stop caring immediately. You're like, oh, this is a bot, I don't care, whatever. But when it's a real human, you feel that like emotional connection, and it's like similar a little bit to the blue check mark, the verification check mark. It's like, this is a real human, this isn't a bot. And so there's probably something there with the check marks and the verifications for writing as well. This was written by a real human, it's got the check mark. You're like, okay, that's cool, I respect that, and then somebody got paid, a human got paid. I also don't think that AI can inference and think in the way that certain humans would, and certain humans, every human's different, and your brain goes into these weird places that an AI probably wouldn't go. You go on tangents, you think of references that the AI might not think of, so there's still a lot to the human brain that can't be copied, I believe, by AI, but that's just me. Writing is also for the writer, to enjoy. It's not just like you're doing it for the reader, you're doing it for yourself. And if you can enjoy the process of writing, it's also like therapy. So I try to think of it that way. It's like I write for myself, and I try not to worry about the problems that AI is going to bring to the writing world. Although there's going to be a lot of issues, and I know a lot of people are worried about it, including people, screenwriters, and people in the film industry. So it's we're just going to have to see kind of how it goes.
Yeah. It's interesting you mentioned about the blue check mark. I was thinking about like copywriting. That's going to be huge. Like having some sort of like a watermark or something like a digital imprint stating that this work came from AI and this work was made by humans. And I know that they are all. I know a lot of AI experts went to the government and then expressed this concern and asked for regulation on that. So I really hope that that can change things.
Yeah, I mean, I hope there is transparency like that. Obviously, like deep fake and stuff like that's going to be a real problem in the near future, and disinformation is going to be a huge problem. I think ultimately you trust that the human answer is a little bit more informed than the AI answer sometimes, because sometimes the AI answers are wrong, or sometimes they hallucinate, or sometimes they say something weird. So you can't exactly trust it. But then again, you can't exactly trust every human you talk to. So, it's the same point. But,
Yeah.
I hope for professional creatives that there is a checkmark verification sort of system, so that they can put their stamp on it, like this was made by a human, and you're like, oh, okay, that's what I wanted. I didn't want something made by a bot. I wanted something made by a human. People will come to like yearn for, really miss human writers, I think, after a while.
Yeah, and that's such a great point. And what I'm hearing from you is that, it's not going to be that AI will take over the film industry. It's more going to be a more like a productive, almost like a productivity app. Almost, you can just use it. It will help you aid towards storytelling or writing, or even just helping, take the time that you're going to take like few months to write a screenplay. It's going to take you like few days, but it's going to be the actually story will be written or visualized by you. Whatever prompts you have, that's your story. It's going to be human still, because like you said, right, we are all humans. And what you like about movies is actually the human element of it, the emotional, the empathetic part of it.
Yeah. I mean, can an AI replicate that? Probably, but I don't know. There's something, we have to keep humans involved. We have to keep humans involved in the arts, or else there's no point. I mean, unless you start having categories for AI made art, completely AI made art. Like, so you differentiate. Like, we were talking about this on a Zoom call last night with this guy who works in Hollywood about, having a category at the AI Film Festival for stories that were written by ChatGPT, and maybe the human helped the AI visualize their story because the AI wanted to tell a story. Who knows? We don't want to like count anybody out, but I think me personally, yeah, like I don't know, I would just rather a human with human mistakes and human errors and like human sort of foibles, like human weaknesses. We actually kind of like that, in what we read and what we take in. It's like when you look at a painting, if you can see the layers of paint, the strokes of the artist, it's like you like that. It shows like human.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes us human, is like our having strengths and weaknesses, and with having that human touch is so critical. With that, and that what I'm hearing is that again, AI will help and aid the film industry and the creative people. With that, I do want to ask, what specific roles in the film industry have the biggest danger in almost not losing the job, but like their work will be reduced quite a bit. So it's not going to be a lot of people needed. And again, not to scare here, but just
Yeah.
so that audience and people can, buckle up and start learning about this right now.
It could be so pervasive and big and disruptive that like it could be a lot. I mean, if live action production were to slow down significantly because AI film production takes over, I mean, that's everybody involved with production. So anybody who works in production would be affected if this thing happened. But look, I think real movies are still gonna get made alongside AI movies. I think they're both gonna exist at the same time. Just like we go to the theater to watch a play or a musical. People love that shit. So they'll be going on at the same time. But basically, people who work in production might suffer, and I think that people who actually work in pre-production, like let's say like development, organization, management, and then post-production, which is like editing, visual effects, cleanup, color correction, distribution, social media, I think they're all going to be fine, to be honest. I think they might get more jobs, so I really do think it's people in production, but I also think people in production will utilize AI to make their jobs easier so that they can start to take on bigger roles and just kind of actually like upgrade their career, with the help of AI. Because when you work in production, it's a lot of like scheduling, right? And logistics. It's like, we got to get this truck over here. We got to get these people over here. We got to get this actor to sign this release. If you can get the AI to really like program all of that and help you with production and organization, all that time you're saving and energy and mental energy that you're saving, you're like, what do I do now with my time? Like the AI is already handling all of this. Okay. But then you start to oversee the AI, and then you get another AI doing something else. And suddenly you're the boss of the AIs. You've got 3 AI assistants helping you out. This is like 10 years from now, let's say. You got 3 AI assistants helping you out, and you're their boss, and you're checking their work, and you're making sure they're doing the right thing. Because if this AI like accidentally sends this group to the wrong place, then that's real humans who are going to suffer because the AI messed up. So again, we have to constantly be checking their work just for safety,
Yeah. It's ultimately, they call this, right, human in the loop. It's basically every single process should go through like the humans finally verifying it. Okay, well, this looks good. So
Yeah.
what I'm hearing again is that the amount of work needed to make movies is going to drastically be reduced. And that means the cost of making movies will reduce a lot. Because, I mean, currently movie making is such a huge budget that you have to have. So,
yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, AI film is going to completely transform the budgets of storytelling and filmmaking and TV shows and commercials and music videos, all of it. The budgets, I would say the budgets are going to come down significantly, maybe 80%, 70%. Wow. And there's going to be less people needed, essentially. But it's still going to be a group of people working on a project, working on a film. And it takes a lot of time and a lot of energy, and it's not going to be easy. And you need talented people to like input their creativity, and you need a good team, all that. What's going to be great is like, making a movie is very prohibitive because you need $1 million. Where are you going to get the $1 million? Like, hopefully you can find a way. Me, I didn't always find a way to get the money. So at that point I was stuck. I was like, oh, well, I wrote this script, but I can't find the money. So I guess that's it. I guess I'll give up on this project and start a new one. And that's like a lot of writers. They're like, all right, well, giving up on this one, I'm going to start the next one. And it's just over and over and over again. And it'll drive you crazy because nothing gets made. That's why animation was so interesting to me. Cause I was like, maybe I can use animation to do my movies and it'll be cheaper. It'll be easier, something like that. And AI filmmaking is animation. It's the same thing. So it's essentially like the new form of like animating a movie, but you can make it look like anything now. So it's like, and it's so much easier than actually animating a movie with 3D models, so it like took a quantum leap in terms of like reducing costs, reducing difficulty, reducing time, all of that is now gonna like go down. So what happens then when so many more people are able to make content? Probably not all good content, you know? So then at that point, again, you have to like start sifting through the bad stuff to find the good stuff. And then, you know, it's the same with like movies. Like you probably have like your favorite movie director, right?
I think Christopher Nolan. I mean,
Christopher Nolan, yeah, and I love Inception. I've actually met Christopher Nolan.
oh,
Um, yeah, and so like if there is somebody who shows talent with AI film and they're the next Christopher Nolan and they make a movie like Inception, you're like, oh my God, that's amazing. Then the next time that that director makes something, you're going to pay attention to that because you like the director. It's going to be the same with AI film, despite the fact that there's going to be so many more creators that able to make stuff. You're still going to have just like a few favorite creators. You're like, oh, I really like this guy or I really like this girl because their stuff really like speaks to me. And everything else in the AI film content or in the AI content world, that's all these things that are coming out is just going to kind of like fade away, you know?
yeah, yeah, and such a good thing that you said over there, because if you look at music industry, like 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, making music was, I mean, anybody can learn instrument, anybody could sing, but actually to record an album, to record something,
Yeah.
and to actually get it edited, mastered, and mixed, that was hard. And not a lot of people were able to do it, and not a lot of talent were there, and not a lot of technology was there. And now with the latest technologies and everything, anybody can make music, and that's what's happening in the music industry. There's so much music out there. Like I was reading this article, and they were saying that every single day Spotify gets more than 60,000 song new released.
Yeah,
And
it's insane. I mean, we are living in a time of so much content and it's just going to get more and more and more and more. And that's why the way we find content and the way we search for content and the way content is brought to us, our attention is so important. You know, the marketing and the SEO, you know, and all that stuff, you know, it's so important like to find those people who want to find you, you know. And so it's overwhelming the amount. Like I love that people have power now to make music easier and put it out there. I love that. But when there's so much stuff out there, how do you find that person or that artist, you know, especially if they're like very unknown? I feel very lucky sometimes when I do discover a very unknown artist on Spotify or SoundCloud and I really connect with them. And then I come back 5 years later and they've got like a huge following, you know, that happens. So yeah, you have to get your content out there and be lucky. But ultimately, again, it's like if you enjoy making music, then that's what's most important. Your enjoyment of the process, you know, and that's what's most important for me in my life right now is my enjoyment of the process of things. And you know, right now working at a film festival, basically that's fun. You know, you're putting on an event. It's a fun process, but it's also very stressful. So I just try to enjoy the process, no matter the crazy things that are coming in society and technology. Like there's so much to worry about. Like you just really have to focus on what you love and not let the distractions get to you, you know?
yeah, yeah, let's switch gears. And you touched on the working on the AI Film Festival. So you are the creative director at the Austin AI Film Festival. Tell us
Mhm.
about that and what's your vision? I know that that's the first year of inception, but what's your vision over there?
Yeah, well, we have a big vision, and AI film festivals are at their very early stages coming around the world, right? There's only probably like 4 or 5 that I know about.
Wow.
And we want to be the first one in Austin. We want to be the first one in Texas. So it's an exciting time to attack this sort of challenge and see if we can do a good job at it. I have one partner, and it's just the two of us right now. And it's okay that it's our first year because it's can only grow from there. So we don't want to put too much pressure on ourselves. At the same time, we want to do something that really matters and that really gets people's attention. So it's a lot of pressure, you know. It's like
Yeah.
you have to get a venue, You have to, book the venue, pay for the venue. You have to get all this audio and visual stuff together. And then you have to get the people to show up, to buy tickets, you have to figure out what movies are going to screen there. I mean, there's everything from screening to panels to networking lounge to this and that, partnerships, sponsorship. So it's a lot to take on, honestly. And I hope it turns out really well. I have confidence in it. My partner has confidence in it. And, you always kind of have a backup plan, right? Like, okay, if we don't sell this many tickets, then what do we do? If we don't raise the sponsor money, then what are we going to do? If we don't get enough entry films, then what are we going to do? So right now I'm trying to plan all those contingency plans, and be like, make sure we're covered, so that nothing bad happens, essentially, and that it's fun. That's what we want to do, is we want to make it fun. It's a film festival. You're going to come and you're going to watch stuff. You're going to meet people and you're going to hear people talk, about AI film, which is this new thing. It's really exciting. It's also very controversial. A lot of people have different opinions about it. So we don't know, how crazy these debates are going to get, we want to be good moderators of that, and good judges, and just really have an open discussion where everybody can express their opinions, because everybody has a different opinion about AI and AI film. So it's like, you can walk into a room and some person might totally disagree with you about ethical AI stuff, So we're navigating all of these challenging, tricky sort of ethical decisions, and we're deciding, on the rules for the film festival, like who can enter it, who cannot enter it, how much AI is enough to qualify as an AI film. These are tricky questions that we're trying to deal with. But the one advantage is that everybody is new to this. So nobody's going to be like, oh, you're doing it wrong. Because we're like, you don't know how to do it either.
Yeah. No, I think that's it's a great start, and I think you are perfectly at the right time to start this festival. And I will only say, like, kudos to you to, like, think about this early on, and like all the other experiences that you have in the past, you are like an early adapter, adapter of technology, and I think definitely it's going to pave a lot of way in the future. I mean, I know that there are a lot of people who are afraid of AI industry, and are also having a lot of like repulsion against AI in the film industry. So I wanted to ask you, what have you heard, like objections, and what has been the biggest fear or repulsion from people?
I think the biggest fear in terms of what I'm working on and what I'm looking at is that people are using AI models that were trained on other people's work and that they have copyright to, technically, and then it just kind of scrapes that data and comes up with something new. So there's this debate between like ethically trained AI. There are some people that are training ethically, training AI ethically. What that means can be disseminated. I mean, ethically can have a lot of different implications. It could be like you paid somebody for the rights. Okay, well, that's just money, Does money now equal ethically trained AI? I don't know. So there's a lot of questions. I think that's the biggest worry, is that legal ramifications, like people making movies. They're like, I don't want to get sued. I want to be able to copyright this. I want to be able to distribute it. I want to be able to put it out there. But when you think about that, that's like bigger companies, bigger corporations, bigger people. For all the little people out there like me, who just want to like make a movie, they might call me a hobbyist or whatever, but actually it's like, who are they to say, if you love making movies, now you can do it with AI. Yes, the AI that we're using, like a lot of people are using, including myself, are using AI software that is not ethical. The court system in America still hasn't ruled on this though. So we're in this big gray area where, technically speaking, we're not wrong. We're not doing anything illegal. Technically speaking, we're not doing anything illegal yet. that might change. So we don't know where the future is going to go, but like I believe that it's about respect, it's about being original, and it's about how you use it, how you use what you create. So respect meaning like don't copy somebody else. Just don't copy somebody else exactly what they do. You know, if I come up with a story and you completely copy that story and make your own thing, that's not cool. You know, but that's different than using Midjourney to create an image, right? Because there's that's less of a direct copy, you know, less of a direct copy. There's more like human ingenuity into it. So put your human thought into it, make something original, add value to the world, create something cool, enjoy yourself while you're doing it. And if we can all do that, then I think we're all following the rules as closely as we can. But of course, a lot of people disagree with that and they take a very hard stance and they say, you know, you're using Midjourney, so you're doing something illegal. It's like, all right, well, if you want to believe that, you can believe that and do it however you want to do it. But like, this is so enjoyable for
Yeah.
me as a storyteller. Like, I'm not going to stop this just because you're telling me to. If the
Yeah.
court system or if the legal system says, if you download Midjourney, you're going to jail, then I might stop. I might stop using Midjourney at that point, you know?
Yeah. No, I love what you said over there. I love the thinking process. And you know, at the end of the day, like you said, it's all about respect and integrity. And actually, by the way, congratulations on your first episode on the Gen R. I
Yeah.
watching that and I'm loving all the conversation that you and Aaron have been having.
Thank
And
you.
one thing you did say about that was democratizing the film industry, and then you touch base on the integrity and then the paying the respect over there. I strongly resonate with that. And you know, talk about that. You know, I'm pretty sure you are aware of the OpenAI
Mhm.
voice activated system,
Mhm.
and one of the voice they offered it to Scarlett Johansson, like if they can mimic her voice, and she said no. Like Scarlett Johansson seems to think that that's actually her voice, and there's a big debate about, and there is a legal battle over there.
Yeah.
So talk about respect, you know, talk about understanding what you are getting into and having, you know, integrity. It's so critical.
Yeah, one of our rules at the film festival is you can't use someone's likeness, meaning you can't portray a famous person like in your AI film without their permission or anybody, right? So that's important to us. And we talked about, you know, human in the loop, right? There is a human in the loop here to make sure that every single entry to the festival is playing by the rules, right? That human happens to be me. So I have to watch a lot of this stuff. But basically it's interesting because you have to be a judge essentially. Like you are judge and jury, right? You are a judge, and someone submits something to you, a work, you know, a film, and they say this is original, and you have to be the judge. Is this original? Did they copy somebody? You know, did they use ChatGPT? I don't know, you know, like there's all these questions, but ultimately we all have to be like there is a person who is judging the work, and that person gets to be in charge of the judge. They're the judge, you know, and so that's kind of how it works, you know, for AI is.
So
Yeah,
let me ask you this. You said, you know, you're gonna get submissions from so many different people
yeah,
submitting their AI film, which is somewhat taken from their inspiration, but at the same time taken help of AI tools. How would you know? Like, you know, it's a tough decision and tough choice. I mean, once somebody took a story and took the help of ChatGPT or Gemini or Mid Journey or Clink, you know, how would you know like that's actually taken from there? Would you like trace it through like some digital stamps, or
Mhm.
how like you have to understand their, I guess, back process or something?
Yeah. Well, first of all, there are different systems we have in place for this, but for people who are submitting through our website, we ask that they list what they use to make it, essentially their workflow. That's just, again, that comes down to respect. Are they going to be honest with us? You know? And when you enter the festival, you're agreeing to the rules. There's a lot of rules, so you should read them, you know? and we encourage everybody to read them thoroughly. But if you're not following the rules, you're not going to be allowed in, you know? So it can be hard to tell about certain things. It can be hard to tell if someone used ChatGPT to write the story. But ultimately, I know enough about this stuff now because I've done enough of it myself. I'm actually pretty good. I know what somebody made something with, or I know, you know, what shot used AI, but not all the time. I could be wrong for sure. That's why we have to have communication with the filmmaker, the director. Actually, as an example, you know, I disqualified an entry last week based on the fact that there was no AI in it. And then the director got back to me and he said, actually, there is AI in this shot and this shot. I'm like, oh wow, I'm sorry, I apologize, you know. And so that can happen too, you know. But we have certain rules with this about how much of it needs to be AI and how much of it needs to be human. And they're interesting rules, you know. They're definitely new, but this is a new thing. AI film festivals are a new thing. We have to set new rules, right? If we want ours to be unique, and somebody might disagree with those rules, that's fine. They don't have to enter, you know.
Yeah, and so I want to switch gears and talk about some of the softwares that you mentioned, like Midjourney and Runway and Clink and other AI tools. You know, what among these tools are you using in your day-to-day activities, and do you think most of the people in the AI industry is using right now?
I'm using all of them. You know, I'm just trying to use all of them, really. And
Which one is your favorite? Let me ask that.
I have different favorites for different types of things. I mean, it's hard to say. There's so many tools, but like, you know, there's the big ones. I think Kling has given me some amazing motion and human emotion, and I'm just like, oh my God, this is crazy. I've gotten good stuff from all of them. I use Runway, I use Kling, I use Pica, I use Luma, I use Midjourney, I use Photoshop with AI, I use Premiere with AI, and then everything in between. You know, there's all these like little things like Topaz Labs and other things you can use. And a lot of people really like working making AI content within DaVinci Resolve, which is an editing and color correction and filter kind of program all in one that a lot of people love. So I
Isn't
think
it free as well?
it might be. It might be. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't use it. I use Premiere to edit everything, but you know, your editing program is very important to bring all of the elements together into video, right? Because you're creating assets in so many different services and video files and all that shit. You need somewhere to bring it all together, and for me, that's the editing program, Premiere. And so, yeah, the only one I haven't really tried out yet is Minimax. I've heard some good stuff about that. I haven't really tried it out yet. And I would say, I mean, probably the people doing the best looking stuff right now are using Kling, but Kling is highly unethical in its training. So
And why do you say that?
I say that partially because it's not a United States company, so it's not playing by United States rules. And you can kind of, by how good it is, you can tell that they just trained it on so much television shows and films that were like not theirs, you know. So it looks really good. I can't say it doesn't look really good, because it does, but something feels a little bit weird about using it, I would say. And yet we're at a point, like I said earlier, where we're in a gray area. There has been no legal court ruling yet. So technically, we're not doing anything illegal. So use it. Yeah. So a lot of people use that. A lot of people like Runway. But again, I use different services for different shots, and I run my shot through I create my shot in Midjourney. I run it through all programs. I see what gives me the best output, and I use that output if I have enough credits. You know,
Yeah.
you have to pay for credits. You have to pay for the subscription. So if I still have enough credits, I try to like mathematically even out where I use my credits and how I spend my credits across all of the programs for all the different things that I'm doing, you know, which is like lip sync or movement or character movement or background or text or whatever the different shot is, a different situation. It sometimes calls for a different method and a different service, you know?
Yeah. No, okay, so that makes sense to me. Look, basically, depending on your need, you're going on different platforms, and then sometimes even going on the different platforms have with the same prompt, and whatever prompt gives you the best output is what you're choosing, and then kind of mixing and matching. That's such a smart and strategic approach. I have two more questions for you. I know we touched a lot on the regulations and then the legality of things. Historically, government has been super slow in adopting technology, and with the AI, the advancements have been happening so fast,
Mhm.
and it's hard to keep up with even the innovators. So
Yeah,
talk about technologists. I mean, talk about the government
it's
bodies.
impossible. I mean, on one hand, it's very worrisome and it's very scary. Um, and on the other hand, it's very exciting. So do with that what you will, but like, it's never going to be that perfect balance of
Yeah,
safety and excitement and like adventure. It's going to be like, we're doing something kind of crazy here because it's technology. Every new technology. When cars first came out, people were crashing and dying, and like when, electricity first came out, people were getting shocked with electricity. It's like new technology can be dangerous, including AI, including deepfakes, including misinformation and stuff like that. But at the same time, we are living in one of the craziest technological advancement times in human history. And the fact that I can generate anything from my mind using AI is just insane. I'm
yeah,
so lucky
yeah,
for that. Even if it was trained on other people's data, doesn't take the fact that we are living in a crazy time and we are lucky to be able to have these powers. And no, we cannot take them for granted and we cannot take advantage of people, but we're all figuring that out still, like how to not take advantage of people.
yeah. That's rightly said, Matisse. That brings me to my last question I have for you. Now that you've worked in the film industry for more than 15 years and you have played with so many technologies, you have been an early adopter in so many different cool technologies like VR, VFX, AI now. What advice would you give to the people on leveraging technologies like AR, VR, VFX, and any other technologies? How can they learn from this?
I would say you learn best just by trying and doing and seeing what happens, and that's what I started doing with AI for film, for storytelling. I just started using it myself and messing around with it. Really, that's how you get the best experience. There are resources out there. Obviously, YouTube has a lot of resources for people to learn. I would say really focus on like what are your priorities, and what are you good at? Like if you want to be good at there's so many different aspects. There's music, there's cinematography, there's editing, there's writing, there's directing, there's just so much. Think about where you want to be, what you want to be doing, what's the category, what's the niche, like what's the specific thing that you might be good at, and then just head towards that. And somewhere along the way you're going to find your way to something great, and it's just be persistent, be resilient, don't give up. It's really tough, to stand out, to create content, good content, to make a good movie. It's tough to persist in the industry amongst everybody and just all the competition and all the content out there. It's really tough, but ultimately, like I said earlier, it's like do it for you, enjoy the process, enjoy what you're doing. If you can get to a point where you can look at it like that, you're in a great place. And that took me a really long time to get to, so because all the other distractions, the money, the likes, the whatever, the fortune and fame, but what does all of that have to do with telling a story? Not much. So stick to that, stick and do it because you like it. And if you're not a storyteller, you can still work in film. Maybe you're into, mechanical stuff. Go work with cameras, maybe you're into computers. Go be an editor, maybe you're into this or that, as the technology advances, as AI advances, don't be afraid of it, just dive right in and figure it out later, and just don't think of it as something scary. Think of it as a new tool. We've been creating tools as humans since we go back to the cavemen, so it's just one of those. It's just one of those, it just looks different. So yeah, don't be afraid of it. Just approach it and tell the stories that you want to tell, and be original with your voice and have fun while you're doing it, you know?
Beautifully said. Matthijs,
Yeah.
it's been a pleasure. This
Yeah.
was an awesome discussion. I have learned so much from you, and I'm pretty sure audience have learned so much too. Thanks a lot for joining the show.
Yeah, I just want to say, everybody, you know, go to austinaifilmfest.com. Check it out. We're putting tickets on sale soon. The event is in March in Austin, Texas. Also go to my other website, bestaifilms.com. So you can see a lot of cool AI film content on there that's curated by me. And yeah, and check out our new podcast, Gen Hour, on Spotify and on YouTube. Thank you.
Awesome. I'll make sure to have a link of that in the podcast description.
All right. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Have a good one.